everyone. I hope you are doing good. So this series of lectures covers dynamics. We have already covered up the statics part in class. So we will start off with dynamics. Firstly, we will cover up the particle kinematics and kinetics. Then eventually we will move on to rigid body dynamics. So let's start. So what do we understand by dynamics? So dynamics concerns the motion of an object. Motion of an object. So we can we'll cover up both the motion and the causes of the object. Causes of motion of an object. So that in statics part we have covered up only objects which were in rest. So now we will consider objects which are in motion and the causes of this motion. Okay, this is what we call as dynamics. So basically dynamics is divided into two parts. So dynamics has two parts, the kinematics and kinetics. So we have dynamics in two parts, the kinematics, and the second part is the kinetics. So if an object is moving, so there are various causes for this. If we are bothered only about the geometry of the motion, then we come into kinematics. If the causes of the motion are not required, or we are not bothered about the causes of the motion, then we come into kinematics. We are concerned only with the geometry of motion. Geometry of motion. Then we come under the category of kinematics. Now instead of the only concerning the geometry, if we are also interested in the causes of the motion, then we come under the case of kinetics. So these are the two parts. So today we will start in this today's lecture we will cover up the particle kinematics. Then in the next upcoming lectures we will move on to kinetics. So we will start with particle kinematics. So particle kinematics. So basically motion is divided into two parts. We have first part as the rectilinear motion. We will call this as the rectilinear motion. The second part is what we call as the curvilinear motion. This is what we call as the curvilinear motion. Okay. So what do we understand by rectilinear motion? So if the motion of an object is only along a straight line, then we will call this as a rectilinear motion. Okay. Motion along a straight line. Then we call this as a rectilinear motion. So then what do we understand by curvilinear motion? So if the object moves along a curved trajectory, then the motion is called as a curvilinear motion. Motion along a curved trajectory is termed as curvilinear motion. Motion along a curved trajectory, along a curved path. This is what we call as a curvilinear motion. So in this lecture today we will cover up the rectilinear motion. So that is motion along a straight line. So let's start. So let's see what do we have. So first let's cover up the concept of displacement. What do we understand by displacement? So let's say we have a coordinate frame. So our abscissa is along the x-axis. Okay. So this is our abscissa along the x-axis. Okay. So this is our origin. So let's say at initial instant when the time t is equals to 0, we consider the particle is located at this position. Let's say this is A. So from origin this distance is s. So from origin to A this distance is s. At t equals to 0 the particle is located at a position s from the origin. So let's say, so if we write down the position vector of this particle, so this RA vector gives us the position vector. This is equals to s I cap. So this I cap is the base vector, or I cap, or we can say the I cap is the unit vector along x direction. So let's say after time delta t, this particle moves along this direction from A to point B. Okay. So the distance between point A and point B is, let's say, delta s. Let's say delta s. So within this time delta t, this particle has moved from point A to point B. So now the time is t plus delta t. So the location of the particle is given as RB position vector RB is given as S plus delta S in the I cap direction. So this is the position of the particle at point B, and this is the position vector of the particle at point A. So initially the particle was initially at this position, at this location, at a distance S from the origin at point A. After some time delta t, the particle is moved in this direction along the positive x direction. Let's say we consider this as the positive x direction. This direction is considered as the positive x direction. So the particle is moved from point A to point B at time delta t. So the distance between point A and point B is delta S. So the final location of the particle at point B from origin is given as S plus delta S, and this is moved along I cap direction. Okay. Now the displacement of the particle, which is a vector quantity, so displacement will represent as delta S vector. So the displacement of this quantity, or rather we'll write it as S vector. So this displacement of a particle S vector is defined as the change in the position vector of a particle. So the change in position vector is RB vector minus RA vector. So the change in the position vector is what we call as the displacement. So in this case RB vector minus RA vector gives us delta S I cap. So this delta S I cap is our displacement vector. So we will consider the displacement to be positive if the particle moves along the positive x direction. We will consider the displacement to be positive, and if the particle moves along this direction opposite to the positive x, we will consider this as a negative direction. So in our case, in this present case, so the displacement is given as delta S I cap. So the displacement vector S vector is given as delta S I cap. So instead of, since we have only one component of vector involved, so we will use only the scalar component. So we will use scalar component with a plus and minus sign, which will signify whether the displacement is positive or negative. So instead of using a vector notation, we will say that the displacement of the particle is delta S, and delta S is given as positive in our case. Now let's say what do we understand by velocity. Now let's see what do we understand by velocity. So let's say the object has moved from point A to point B in an instant delta t, and the distance covered by the object is delta S. Distance covered by the object is delta S. So the average velocity of the particle, average velocity of the particle is given as V average, is given as the total displacement by total time. Total displacement covered by the particle in the total time. So this delta S by delta t gives us the average velocity of the particle. So this is a unit of meters per second, or maybe let's say feet per second, or maybe some centimeters per second, something like this. So these are the units. So the particle was initially at point A, it has moved to point B within a time instant of delta t, and the displacement of this particle is delta S. So the average velocity of this particle within this instant is given as delta S by delta t. So now if this delta t is very, very small, so under the limiting condition, if we take the limiting condition that delta t tends to 0, that the time instant covered is very, very small, so then we come up to the concept of instantaneous velocity. So the instantaneous velocity is given as limit delta t tends to 0, delta t tends to 0, delta S by delta t, delta S by delta t. So as we know this definition, this limit delta t tends to 0, delta S by delta t, this is the definition of derivative. So we can write it as ds by dt. So the instantaneous velocity small v is given as ds by dt. So this is our basic equation of kinematics, and this is valid under all conditions. This is how we define. So the instantaneous velocity at any instant of time is defined as the rate of change of displacement with respect to time. So the instantaneous velocity is defined as rate of change of displacement with respect to time. Rate of change of displacement with time. Change of displacement with time. So this is how we define the instantaneous velocity. and this equation gives us the instantaneous velocity. If we know how the displacement varies with time, we can differentiate it to find out the instantaneous velocity at any instant of time. So now let's move on to the concept of acceleration. So now let's consider the concept of acceleration. So what do we understand by acceleration? So let's say at the instant when the particle starts its motion, so let's say the velocity does not remain constant in this instant. So let's say at delta t instead of time, the velocity of the particle changes by delta v. So if the velocity of the particle changes by delta v, then we define the average acceleration average as the total change in velocity divided by the total time. Okay, so under this condition, let's say if the time instant delta t is very small, let's say under the limiting condition when limit delta t tends to 0, so under the instant that when delta t tends to 0, so under this limiting condition, this acceleration average under this limiting condition, let's say delta t tends to 0, in this case delta v by delta t, this average acceleration becomes delta v by delta t. Under this condition, we call this average acceleration under this condition when delta t tends to 0, this average acceleration becomes the instantaneous acceleration, that is the acceleration at a particular instant of time. So let's say this we define it as a. So this acceleration is given as, this is the definition of derivative, so this we can write it as dv by dt. So the acceleration of instantaneous acceleration of a particle is defined as the rate of change of velocity with respect to time. So this is how we define the acceleration. So this is a general equation which is valid under all circumstances. So we have defined the instantaneous acceleration A as dv by dt. So now there are certain notes that need to be taken care of. So a particle is said to be accelerated when the velocity increases. If velocity increases, that is the magnitude of velocity increases, the particle is said to be accelerated. If mod of v increases, this implies acceleration. This mod v implies the magnitude of velocity. If the magnitude of the velocity increases, the particle is said to be accelerated. And if this magnitude of velocity decreases, then we say that the particle is retarding. That means if mod v decreases, this implies that the particle is retarding. So acceleration is a generally vector quantity. So if the magnitude of velocity decreases, we call this as retardation. And if the magnitude of velocity increases, we call this as acceleration. So acceleration is also a vector quantity since it is dependent on the velocity, and velocity is also a vector quantity. Now how to identify whether a particle accelerates or decelerates? So we have certain cases. So let's see. So in this consider this case, if the particle is moving along the positive x direction, let's say the velocity is in this case is given as positive. Velocity is positive. Velocity given as positive. So if the particle is moving in this direction and the acceleration is also acting in this direction, so acceleration is also positive, in that case the particle will accelerate. The particle is said to accelerate. Under these conditions, when the velocity and acceleration both act along the same direction, the magnitude of velocity will increase. So if the magnitude of velocity increases, we say that the particle is accelerating. Now consider the case instead the velocity is acting along the positive direction, whereas the acceleration is acting along the negative direction. So let's say the acceleration is negative, or the acceleration is acting along the opposite direction to this positive x. So in that case, the magnitude of v will decrease, and the particle will retard. The other possibilities are, when the particle can accelerate, the other possibilities are, let's say if the velocity itself is negative, let's say if v is negative. In this case, if a is also negative, that means the velocity is acting along this direction, that means the particle is moving in this direction, velocity is in this direction. If acceleration also acts in this direction, then the magnitude of velocity will increase. then mod v will increase and the particle will accelerate. That means if the direction of the velocity and acceleration are same, the particle will always accelerate. Whereas if v is acting in the negative direction, that means the particle is moving in this direction and acceleration is acting in this direction. So the signs of acceleration and velocity are opposite. In that case, we will say that the particle will retard and the magnitude of v, magnitude will decrease. Magnitude of v, the modulus of v, the magnitude of v, the velocity will decrease. And in this case, we will call this as retardation. Okay, so now let us check out the basic equations of kinematics. Equations of kinematics. Equations of kinematics. So till now we have seen the definitions of velocity, acceleration and displacement. So the first equation that we have seen is that the velocity v is given as ds by dt. The rate of change of displacement with respect to time is equal to the velocity. The second, we have seen that the acceleration is related to velocity as dv by dt. So acceleration is defined as the rate of change of velocity with respect to time. That means if the velocity is changing with respect to time, we have some acceleration, and acceleration is defined as rate of change of velocity. So now from this equation we can see that the ddt, so this v from this equation we can substitute it over here. So we see that ds by dt. So this we can write it as the acceleration is equals to the second derivative of the rate of change of displacement. So d2s by dt square. So this implies acceleration is d2s by dt square. This is our another one of our basic equations. Two of them we have already seen earlier. So this one is one, this one is another one, and this one is the other one, the third one. So we have another equation. So let's say we can write down the acceleration again, this acceleration again as dv by dt. So this we can algebraically manipulate as dv by ds times ds by dt. This we can write down. So the rules of differentiation I hope are known to all of you. So this is a rule of differentiation. We can use it like a product rule. So this dv by ds is there. So ds by dt is nothing but our velocity. So we can write the acceleration as v times of dv by ds. So we can write down the acceleration as v times of dv by ds. So this is again another one of our kinematic equation. So all in all we have seen four equations of kinematics which are our general equations. So these are valid under all circumstances provided these equations are applied only along one direction. Since we have only one direction in our cases in rectilinear motion, so these equations are valid always. So number one, so that we have found out is v equals to ds by dt, the definition of velocity. Then we have seen the definition of acceleration, dv by dt. Then we have seen that this is also equals to second derivative of the rate of change of displacement, and further this is also equals to acceleration is also equals to v dv by ds. So these four are our basic kinematic equations, and these four equations are valid under all circumstances. Okay, so now let's consider the applications of the equations that we have learned just now. So the first case is, let's say we consider uniform motion. We consider the case of uniform motion. So what do we understand by uniform motion? By uniform motion we mean, let's say a particle starts from a certain position. Let's say this is our coordinate plane, so this is our origin. So let's say at time t equals to 0, the particle starts at this location S0 and it starts moving in this direction along the positive acceleration. So let's say the particle moves with a velocity v. At this instant the particle is at rest and it starts from S0 and then it moves eventually. So by uniform motion we mean that when the acceleration of the particle is 0 throughout the course of this motion, we call this as a uniform motion. So if the acceleration is 0 throughout this motion, then we will call this as a uniform motion. So now from our basic equation of from the definition of acceleration, so acceleration is given as dv by dt. So if this acceleration is 0, so throughout this motion we will see that the velocity remains constant throughout the motion. So if the velocity remains constant throughout the motion of this particle and the acceleration will be 0, which implies that the velocity is constant. So in that case we will call the motion to be a uniform motion. Okay. So now from our basic equation of from the definition of velocity, we see that v is equals to the rate of change of displacement. This we have earlier seen. So this we can write it down as something like this: ds is equals to v dt from basic rules of differentiation. So then we can integrate it. So the integration, the time starts from 0. After any time instant t, the particle would have moved from S0, initially it is at S0, and it will have moved to a certain location S. Let's say this is at time t and the location is S. So from this integration we can see, so this S minus S0, since the velocity is constant from this, so the velocity is constant and can be taken out from the integral. So velocity is constant, so integral dt is t, so we get v t. Okay. So from this equation we can further write it as delta S. Delta S is nothing but S minus S0 is equals to Vt. So this is our basic equation when there is no acceleration, or the acceleration is 0 when the motion is uniform. So this is our basic equation, basic kinematic equation. This can be used always whenever the acceleration is 0 or the particle or an object moves at a uniform velocity or uniform motion. This equation is valid. Now let us consider the second case. Let's take another case. Now let's say in the second case we have constant acceleration case. In the earlier case we had 0 acceleration, now we have constant acceleration. Let's say we have the case of constant acceleration. So if the acceleration is constant, let's say then from the basic definition of acceleration we have this: a equals to dv by dt. So this we can write it something like this: dv equals to a dt. This we can write down. So then we can integrate. So now we see that if the particle initially starts from an initial velocity of u and after time t it attains a velocity of v. Let's say the particle starts from the position S0 at time t equal to 0. At time t equal to 0 the particle starts from S0 with an initial velocity u, and after time t the particle attains a velocity v, so that in such a way that the acceleration remains constant. So the time limit will be from 0 to t. So this integral dv will be nothing but v minus u. So if the acceleration is constant, this acceleration can be taken out of the integral, and this integral dt will be nothing but t. So we can write down the basic equation as v equals to u plus at. So this is a very important equation. So this equation is only valid when the acceleration is constant. So this we have assumed earlier. This equation is only valid when the acceleration is constant. So a common mistake is that people use this equation on cases when acceleration is not constant, which is not true. So this equation has been derived with the idea that acceleration remains constant and then it is taken out of the integral, and this we have reached to this equation. So acceleration is constant. We can derive few more equations. So we have related the velocity and acceleration using a time equation. So we can derive few more equations in these cases. So let's say now we want to relate the acceleration and the displacement. So we know our basic kinematic equation A is given as v times dv by ds. This equation is known to us. This we have already seen earlier. So from this we can write it down as like this: A ds is equals to V dV. So now if we integrate, now let's say if we integrate, the particle has initially started from an initial velocity of u and has attained a final velocity v. Here the particle has started from, let's say, s naught, and finally it has reached s. So this we can write down as A delta s, and this we can write it down, v integral v dv is v square minus u square by 2. U square by. So this equation can be written as v square minus u square equals to twice A delta s. So this is another very important equation. This is also valid only when the acceleration is constant, since we have taken this acceleration out of the integral. In this step we have taken the acceleration out of the integral. So this equation is also valid only when the acceleration is constant. So now let's say if we want to relate the displacement and the time, how does the displacement varies with time? Then we have this equation. We know this from the definition of velocity, that v is given as ds by dt. So let's erase this part. So we see that ds is given as v dt. So just now we have derived the equation for v. If the acceleration is constant, we can write down this v as u plus at dt. This equation is also valid. Since we have taken the acceleration to be constant, so this we can substitute. This is valid for constant acceleration. So now we can integrate. So the integration limits in the time varies from 0 to t, and the displacement varies from s naught to s. So this ds becomes delta s. So this delta s is that initially the particle was at s naught, and finally the particle has reached the point s. So within a time instant of t, which is t minus 0, within a time instant of t, the particle has covered a displacement of delta s. So from this we can write down ut plus a is constant, so we can take it out of the integral. A is t dt is t square by 2, so we have a t square half. So this is another of our basic equation. So delta s is equals to ut plus half a t square. So this equation is also valid only when the acceleration is constant. So we have seen three basic equations. When the acceleration is constant, we have seen three basic equations. So I am just writing it for a recap. So if the acceleration is constant, so we have number 1, v is equals to u plus at. Number 2, we have v square minus u square equals to twice a delta s, and we have delta s, change in displacement, is equals to ut plus half a t square. So in all these three equations we have to take care of the signs of v, u and a very carefully. So whether a particle is moving in the positive direction or negative direction with positive or negative velocity, we have to put this in these equations, and then only we can apply it in a particular problem solving approach. Okay, so now let's check out some graphical inferences for the equations that we have just derived. So graphical methods. So these methods are useful for solving problems. Graphical methods. Okay. So the first one is the displacement time curve, or the ST curve. So we will call this as the ST curve. So let's consider this the ST curve. Let's say we have a curve like this. So in the ordinate we have the displacement, and in the abscissa we have the time axis. Okay. So let's consider this curve as, let's say the displacement time curve is something like this. Let's say this is the point T1, At this point the particle is at the location S1. It starts from this location, it moves like this, then it comes like this, and then it is this. So this is the displacement time curve. So let's say this is point S1, this is time T2, and this is, let's say, S2. This point is, let's say, time T3, and this point is, let's say, S3, and this point is, let's say, let's take example more. This is, let's say, E4. So this is, let's say, S4. Okay. So based on the displacement time curve, we can visualize how the object would have moved. Let's say this is the origin. This is the origin and this is our axis. Let's say at time t equals to t1, when our clock starts, time is at t1. So the particle is located at the location S1. So this is, let's say, S1 location, or rather, let's say this is our S1 location. This is our S1 location. The particle starts from here at time t1. So the displacement is increasing from here to here up to time t2. So that means the particle has moved in the positive direction. So the particle has moved in the positive direction. So the displacement is increased up to time t2. The particle has reached this point S2. So this point is, let's say, S2. The particle has reached up to this point T2. After that, the particle has retraced its path. As can be seen from the curve, the displacement is decreasing. Though the displacement is positive, but it is decreased. That means the particle is still along this direction only, along this positive quadrant of this axis only. So it has not gone in this side. So the particle is still over here. So the particle starts from this and it moves in this direction now. It moves in this direction. Let's say it reaches the point S3. It reaches the point S3 over here. Let's say this is S3 at time T3. After that, the particle again retracts its path and it moves in the positive direction again. So from this point it moves up to, let's say, somewhere over here. So this S4 is more than S1. So S4 is more than S1. So it will be somewhere here. So let's say this is some S4 at time T4. So this is how the particle has moved. So it has started from here, moved to this point, then it came back over here up to this point, and then it again retraced its paths and went to this point. So this is the final location of the particle. And from this, we have drawn the displacement curve is given as something like this. So what inferences can be drawn from this curve? Let's see. So as we know from the definition of velocity, v is given by ds by dt. This is the basic definition of velocity. So now if we look into this displacement time curve, ds by dt is nothing but the slope of the tangent to this curve. So if this is the displacement time curve, the slope of the tangent to this curve. So the slope of this tangent to this curve is nothing but the velocity. So from this curve we can infer that velocity is given as the slope of tangent of ST curve. Tangent of the ST curve. This is a very important conclusion, ST curve. This is a very important inference. So the velocity from the displacement time curve, we can find out the velocity of the particle at any instant. Let's say over here, we can find out by differentiating this, which will give us the slope of the tangent to the curve. The slope of this curve will give us the velocity. Another inference that can be drawn from the displacement time curve is that we can find out the total distance traveled by a particle from this displacement time curve. So let's see how it can be found. So let's use this. Okay. As you can understand from the physical coordinate, so the particle starts from this location, it moves up to this position. So let's say within the time instant t2 minus t1, in this time instant the particle is moved by a distance of s2 minus s1. s2 minus s1. So within the time instant t2 minus t1, the particle has moved through s2 minus s1. In the next time instant, when this t3 minus t2, in this time instant the particle has came up to this point. Though the displacement is decreasing, as can be seen over here, the particle has retraced its path. It is coming in this direction. Also it can be seen from this. The displacement is decreasing, but the distance will always increase. Distance is a scalar quantity, it is not a vector. So the distance traveled by the particle will always increase. So the distance traveled by the particle from here to here is nothing but equal to the displacement. In this instant, the displacement up to from here to here is equal to the distance traveled by the particle. So the distance traveled by the particle is S3 minus S2, and we will take a modulus over here. Since S3 is less than S2, so this will come out to be negative. The displacement is though negative, but the distance traveled by this is modulus of S3 minus S2, which will be positive. Now from this point to the next instant, from T3 to T4, from T3 to T4 the particle is moved from here to here. So the T3 to T4, T3 minus T4, in this time instant the particle is moved from here to here. So again we can write it as S4 minus S3. Okay, so the total distance traveled by this particle from this displacement time curve can be found out as d equals to S2 minus S1 mod. This is, if we remove the mod, this will be also equal to S2 minus S1, since it is a positive quantity. S3 minus S2 plus S4 minus S3. This is also mod. So this is a very interesting conclusion which we can derive. So we can say that distance traveled by the particle, distance traveled, this is equals to sum of displacements in each of monotonic regions of ST curve. Okay, this I'll explain further. So let's see the curve again. Let's get back to the curve again. So the displacement time curve was something like this. So from this time instant to this time instant up to this instant, the curve is monotonic. So the displacement and distances are equal. Up to this, in this time instant, the displacement is equal to the distance. So this distance is, let's say, d1. So this distance is d1. Then the particle is moved from here to here in the opposite direction. So this again the curve is monotonic from here to here. So this distance is, let's say, d2. In this case, the displacement and distances are equal. Only the thing is that the distance will be positive, but the displacement will be negative in this case. In this instant only. Then in the next instant again, so the particle is moving from here to here. This is the displacement time curve. The particle is moved from here to here. So the displacement time curve, this one. So the distance and displacements are again equal. The curve is monotonic over here. The monotonicity changes at this position and at this position in the ST curve. So the curve is monotonic from here to here, but not from here to here. The monotonicity changes over here also. So we can take the sum of each part of the monotonic region. So this one part, and this one part, and only the magnitudes we will take, and we can find out the distance. So the total distance is given as d1 plus d2 plus d3. Okay, so this is a very interesting conclusion. So there are two inferences that can be drawn from the ST curve. First is the slope of the ST curve gives us the velocity. Slope of the tangent to the ST curve gives us the velocity, and the sum of each of the monotonic regions, the magnitude of these regions gives us the distance traveled by the particle. Now let's move on to the next type of curve that we can draw. So the next curve is the VT curve. Next curve is the VT curve. Here similar to the displacement time curve, the time is along the abscissa and V is along the ordinate. So if we have some certain curve V, we have a certain curve like this. So we know from the definition of acceleration that A is given as dV by dt. So that means the slope of the tangent to this curve, this VT curve, will give us the acceleration. So this is one of the inference, that slope of tangent of vt curve, this is equals to the acceleration at the time instant. So this is one important inference from this curve. We have another inference that can be drawn from this curve. Let's see. So we know another thing is that the velocity is given as ds by dt, the rate of change of the displacement. So this equation we can write it something like this: ds is equals to v dt, and we can integrate. So this left hand side becomes delta s, and the right hand side is integral v dt. So under a certain time instant, let's say from t1 to t2, if we take this time instant and we integrate this curve from t1 to t2, that means we get the area under this curve. This integral represents the area under this curve. So this area from t1 to t2, we are integrating from t1 to t2. So the area under this curve gives us the change in displacement that has been taken by the particle from this point to this point. That means within a time instant of delta t, which is equal to t2 minus t1, the displacement is delta s, and this displacement can be found out from the vt curve as the area under the vt curve within this time instant. So this is another inference, that the displacement can be found out by the area under the vt curve. The change in displacement is equal to the area under the vt curve. So this is one of the inference that I will write down. So area under vt curve equals to change in displacement, the delta s. So this is again another one of our inferences. So these two inferences can be drawn from the vt curve. Now let's move on to the next type of curve. Let's see the other type of curve. So the other type of curve is the third type of curve, is the AT curve. This is the AT curve. As earlier, A will be along the ordinate and this will be along the abscissa. So from this equation, this A equals to dv by dt. Let's say we have some curve. So let's say this is time instant t1, and let's say this is time instant t2. So from this equation we can see that this dv is equals to a dt. Okay. So now if we integrate, so let's say at time t1 the initial velocity was u, and at time t2 the velocity is v. So this v minus u, the change in velocity, this is equals to integral a dt. Okay. Now the acceleration is not constant according to this curve, so this has to be integrated. So the acceleration is not constant, so the area under this curve, so this a will not come out. So the area under this curve is given as v minus u. So this area under this AT curve gives us the change in velocity. Okay, from t1 to t2. So this is one of the important inference. As we solve some more problems, we will be using these equations. Then many of the doubts will be cleared out. So the area under the AT curve gives us the change in velocity. This is one of the inference that can be drawn. So let's solve some problems to check out the concepts that we have learned today. So this is one problem. So the displacement time variation is given something like this. So the displacement is given as 2t cube minus 24t plus 6. This is in meters. Okay. And t is in seconds. So we are required to find out, number one, time required to reach v equals to 72 meters per second. This is the first part of the question. Number two, we are required to find out acceleration when v equals to 30 meters per second. Number 3, displacement from t equals to 1 to t equals to 4 seconds. So this is the question. So the displacement time variation is given as s equals to 2t cube minus 24t plus 6. We are required to find out the time required so that the velocity of the particle becomes equals to 72 meters per second. We are required to find out the acceleration when the velocity is 30 meters per second, and the displacement of the net displacement of the particle when the time interval is from 1 to 4 seconds. So the displacement time variation, this curve is also given. So this curve is also given to us. So let's see the curve. So this displacement time curve is given something like this. So this is 6. This point, this extreme point is 2 seconds. So this is minus 26. This is 4 and this is 38. Sorry. This is 38. Okay, so this is the displacement time curve. So we are required to find out, number 1, we are required to find out the time required for the particle to reach velocity to be 72 meters per second. So let's see. So this is the displacement time curve given in the question. So the displacement time relationship is given something like this. So 2t cube minus 24t plus 6. So the velocity of this particle can be found out by differentiating, as we have learned today. So ds by dt is the velocity. So this ds by dt will be 6 t square minus 24. This is in meters per second. And the acceleration can be found out by further differentiating. This will be dv by dt. So this is 12t. So this is the acceleration and this is the velocity. So we are required to find out the time when the velocity is, this number 1 question, when the velocity is 72 meters per second. That means v is given as 72 meters per second. So at 72 meters per second, what should be the time? 6t square minus 24. So this we can solve it. 6t square should be equals to 96. So this implies t square equals to 16. This implies t equals to plus minus 4 seconds. Okay. So we can erase this. So this minus 4 seconds, this implies that before the initiation of the motion, the velocity would have reached 72, which is not physically possible. So the only answer possible is t equals to 4 seconds. So this is the solution to our first part of the problem. This solves our first part. So now let's move on to the second part. So in the second part, it is asked we are required to find out the acceleration when the velocity is 30 meters per second. So v is 30 meters per second. So we have 6t square minus 24. So this implies 9. This implies t is equals to 3 only. The minus solution is neglected, which is not possible. So this t equals to 3 seconds we know. So we know that at time t equals to 3 seconds, the velocity of the particle will be 30 meters per second. So at the same instant, when the velocity is 30 meters per second, we need the acceleration. So we have found out the time. We can substitute at this time into the expression for the acceleration, which we have earlier derived. The expression for the acceleration is nothing but 12t. We have derived it, we have differentiated and found out this earlier. So we can substitute this over here. So this is our solution. So this gives the solution of our second part of the problem. Okay. So now let's solve the third part. Let's solve the third part. So we are required to find out what is the net displacement from t equals to 1 to t equals to 4 seconds. So S is given as 2t cube minus 24t plus 6. So when t equals to 1, we can directly substitute to find out the delta S. So delta S, so t4 cube minus 24 into 4 plus 6, this minus 2 into 1 cube minus 24 into 1 plus 6. So this gives a net displacement of 54 meter. So this is our answer. So based on the equations that we have found out in this problem, we can try to draw the velocity time and the acceleration time curve. So let's see how do they look like. So the expression for the velocity we have found it something like this: 6t square minus 24. So the Vt curve will look like something like this. This is V, this is t. So at t equals to 0, V is minus 24. So at t equals to 0, V should be minus 24. So this will start from this part, minus 24. Furthermore, as you can see that this V plus 24 is equals to 6t square. So this we can see that this V, this represents the curve is a parabolic curve. It's a quadratic equation. It's a parabolic curve whose vertex is shifted to minus 24 and 0, minus 24. So this is 0, minus 24. So the vertex of the parabola will be something here. So furthermore, we can see that if we substitute t equals to 2 over here, the velocity comes out to be 0. That means at t equals to 2, the velocity is 0. So the parabola will start something like this and it will be something like this. So this is t equals to 2. So at t equals to 2, the velocity is 0. This is 1, 2, let's say some 3, let's say this is some 4, the end of it. Okay, so at this point the velocity is, we have found it out by substituting. We can substitute t equals to 4 over here, we can find out the velocity. So 4 over here, 16. So this is coming out to be 72. So this is our Vt curve. Okay, so now let's try to draw the At curve, which is much more simpler than this. So let's see. So let's see the At curve. So the expression for A is equals to 12t. which is nothing but the equation of a straight line. As you can see, y equals to mx format. So this is the equation of a straight line. So this a is a function of t. So this is a straight line with slope as 12. So this is the straight line. T is 4. This will be equals to 48. Okay. So this is the equation. This is the AT curve. So one more thing to note in this is that since the acceleration is not constant, we cannot use these equations. These equations cannot be used. These equations cannot be used. So we have to go to the basics of differentiation and integration. So these equations can always be used. So we have basically used these equations only to derive our solution. So before we solve the next type of problem, I would like to discuss something about mathematics. So let's say we have a quadratic equation given as y equals to ax square plus bx plus c. So how to draw the graph for a quadratic equation, I will discuss before we solve the next type of problem. So this is a quadratic equation, as you can see, ax square plus bx plus c. So if this coefficient of x square, this a, if this sine of a, if this is greater than 0, then this parabola will be an upward parabola, basically like this. And if this a, this is less than 0, then this parabola will be a downward parabola. Okay, geometrically this parabola will be a downward parabola. And if this a is greater than 0, this will be an upward parabola. Okay, so now let's try to find out the vertex of this parabola. This point, this maximum and the minimum, or the minimum point, this point is called as the vertex of the parabola. So first of all, once this equation, a quadratic equation is given, so based on the sign of this a, we will determine whether a parabola is upward or downward. Okay, and we need to determine the vertex. Once we know this vertex, we know the shape of the parabola. So we will manipulate this equation, ax square plus, so we'll take this a common, b by a times x plus c. This we can write it down. So then we multiply and divide by 2, 2b, 2a over here. So this then can be formed as a whole square format. So we can use this x square plus 2 times of b by twice a into x plus b square by 4a square. So this part we have added it over here, so we need to subtract from over here. So c minus, so b square by 4a square multiplied with a, so this is c minus b square by 4a. Basically this part we have added and subtracted over here. So this is basically the square of x plus b by twice a. So this is basically x plus b by twice a, this whole square, plus this we can write it down as something like this, 4a, so this will be 4ac minus b square. So now we can see that this quantity, this 4ac minus b square is nothing but the negative of the discriminant. So we see that y is equals to a times of x plus b by twice a whole square plus so this we can write it down as 4a minus capital D, where capital D is the discriminant. So this capital D, the D is equals to b square minus 4ac, the discriminant. So this we can take it down to this side. This we can take down to this side. So we have a plus y plus d by 4a. This is equals to a times of x plus b by twice a whole square. So this is basically of the format y equals to capital Y is equals to some a into capital X square. So this is of this format, where the vertex of this parabola has been shifted to minus b by twice a, minus b by twice a. This is the x coordinate, minus b by twice a, and the y coordinate is minus capital D by 4a. So the vertex of the parabola, this quadratic equation, this is a quadratic equation. The vertex of this parabola has been shifted to this coordinate, and based on the sign of this a, we will determine whether a parabola is an upward parabola or a downward parabola. So basically, if we know the sign of this a, we can determine whether it is upward or downward, and we also know the coordinate of the vertex. So based on these two inferences, we can draw the parabola. So now we are equipped with sufficient information to solve the next problem. So let's try to solve, draw one graph. So let's say we write down, say, let's say minus 2x square plus 3x minus 4. So let's say this is a parabolic equation. So we are required to draw this parabola. So the coefficient of x square is minus 2, so that means the parabola will be a downward parabola. So now we need to find out the vertex. So b is 3, b is 3 over here, a is minus 2, and c is equals to minus 4. So the x coordinate is minus b by twice a, which is equals to minus b divided by 2 times of minus 2. 2 times of minus 2. So this is equals to 3 by 4. So the vertex of the parabola will be at 3 by 4. Vertex of the x coordinate of the vertex will be at 3 by 4. So let's find out the y coordinate then. So let's find out the y coordinate then. Minus, or rather 4 minus 2 4ac minus b square. B square is nothing but 9 by 4 times of minus 2. So this is equals to 16 to the 32 minus 9 factor. This is 23 by 8. Okay, so the vertex is at 3 by 4, comma 23 by 8. Sorry, minus 23 by 8. This is basically minus 23 by 8. So this minus is there. So this is minus 23 by 8. Okay. So this is basically minus 23 by 8. So 3 by 4 comma minus 23 by 8. So this is the vertex of the parabola. So we can now draw the parabola. So the x coordinate is at 3 by 4 comma minus 23 by 8. So this is 3 by 4 minus 23 by 8. So this is something like this. The parabola will be something like this. So this point is, so this is 3 by 4 and this point is minus 23 by 8. And the parabola will be a downward parabola. Okay. So this is how we draw parabolic curves. So now let's try to solve the problem on our So this is the question. A particle starts from rest at x equals to minus 2 meter and moves Okay, so a particle starts from rest at -2 meters and moves along the x-axis with velocity history. The velocity time curve is given in the question. So we are required to plot the AT curve, the ST curve up to time t equals to 2 seconds, and also we are required to find out when the particle crosses the origin. So let's see the VT curve. So the VT curve is given something like this. This is the VT curve. So this is a straight line up to t equals to 0.5, and this is 3. Then the velocity remains constant, then it decreases, and this is 1, this is 2, this is -1. Okay, so this is our VT curve given in the question. We are required to plot the AT curve and the ST curve. So let's start. Let's see. So considering the first segment, when the velocity is basically a straight line, so the straight line equation is given as y is equals to mx of this format. So v is equals to basically m times of t. This should be the equation since it passes through the origin. So this m can be found out from the curve as m is equals to 3 divided by 0.5. So this is basically 60. So this velocity time curve is valid up to 0 less than equals to t less than equals to 0.5. So up to t equals to 0.5 second, this velocity time curve is valid. In the next segment we have, from 0.5 to 1 second, the velocity is basically a constant. So we have velocity as v equals to 3 meters per second. Velocity is basically constant. Okay, so this is valid from 0.5 to 1 second. In the next segment from 1 to 2 seconds, the velocity is basically again linear. So now this straight line is somewhat more complicated. So we will use this equation, this format of straight line. Y minus y1 is equals to y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1 by x minus x1. So this is the equation of a straight line passing through 2 points, x1 y1 and x2 y2. So this is a 2-point formula for the straight line. So we will use this equation. So here our x1 y1 coordinate is, so x1 y1 coordinate is nothing but this 1, 3. 1 is t equals to 1, velocity is 3, and x2 y2 is nothing but 2, minus 1. So substituting these coordinates back into the equation, we get the velocity expression as v equals to minus 4t plus 7. So this is the expression for velocity which we get after substituting these two coordinates in the equation for the straight line, where y is our v and x is our t. So this equation is valid for t varying from 1 to 2 seconds. So this is the expression for velocity. So let's segregate and write it down. So the velocity is 6t from 0 to 0.5. Then this is 3 from 0.5 to 1, and minus 4t plus 7, 1 to 2. This is the velocity equation. So to plot the AT curve, we need to find out the acceleration first. So acceleration A is given by dv by dt. So we need to differentiate this. So if we differentiate this, we get acceleration as, so dv by dt for first case is 6. From 0 to 0.5 it is 6. From 0.5 to 1 acceleration is 0. And from 1 to 2 acceleration is -4. Okay. Now to find out the expressions for the displacements, we need to integrate. So we know v is equals to ds by dt. So ds equals to v dt, and this we will integrate. So the initial condition is 0 up to time t, which is between 0.5, which is between 0 and 0.5. So instead we can do a indefinite integration. So we will have s equals to, the expression for velocity is known to us, which is 6t, integral 6t dt. So this is nothing but 3t square plus c is the integration constant. So we know at t equals to 0, the initial condition is given. At t equals to 0, the displacement is given as -2 meter. So this c will be -2. So this c, by substituting t equal to 0, this should be -2. So c should be -2. So s is equals to 3t square minus 2. So this is the expression for displacement 0 less than t less than equals to 0.5. For the second segment, where the velocity remains constant, since the velocity remains constant, we can use this. We can substitute t equals to 0.5 first over here. At t equals to 0.5, comma s is equals to, substitute 0.5 over here. So we get s equals to -1.25 meters. So at t equals to 0.5, the particle would have reached a displacement of -1.25 meter. So now consider the second condition of velocity from 0.5 to 1. Velocity is constant, so ds is equals to v dt integral. So s equals to 3t plus c. This c is the integration constant for the next segment. Now we need to find out this c. To find out this c, we see that to find out this integration constant, we see that at time t equals to 0.5, the displacement of the particle has to be equals to -1.25 meter. So -1.25 meter, this should be equals to 3 into 0.5 plus c. From this we find out c is equals to -2.75 meters. So the expression for s is 3t minus 2.75. This is for time varying from 0.5 to 1. Now we can integrate the next segment now. Now at t equals to t equals to 1 second, the displacement of the particle will be 3 into 1 minus 2.75. This is equals to 0.25. So this is the displacement at the end of the constant velocity segment. So this should be the beginning for the next non-uniform velocity segment. So for the next segment we have s equals to integral minus 4t plus 7 dt. From this we get minus 2t square plus 7t plus some integration constant c1. So this integration constant c1 can be found out by substituting this. At time t equals to 1 second, the displacement should be 0.25 meter, which we will substitute over here. So this should be equals to 0.25 at t equals to 1 second. So by solving this, we get the equation for s equals to minus 2t square plus 7t minus 4.75. So these are the expressions for the displacement at various segments. So the first one is 3t square minus 2 the next one is 3t minus 2.75. The third part is minus 2t square plus 7t minus 4.75. So this is the displacement time equation. So now we are required to draw the curves. So let's first draw the AT curve. So the AT curve, the expression for acceleration was something like this. Acceleration was 6, then 0, then minus 4. So from 0 time t equals to 0 to 0.5, the acceleration is 6, which should be something like this, which is constant. 0.5 and this should be 6. From 0.5 to 1, this is 1, acceleration is 0, which is this, and from 1 to 2, the acceleration is minus 4. So this is minus 4, so this is our AT curve. Now let's try to draw the displacement time curve. So the displacement time curve will be from this. So the first segment of the displacement time curve is 3t square minus 2. 3t square minus 2, this is a quadratic equation. So this is a quadratic equation. At time t equals to 0, the displacement is minus 2. So this is the quadratic equation. Also, this is an upward parabola since the coefficient of t square is positive. So this is an upward parabola. So up to time t equals to 0.5. At time t equals to 0.5, the displacement we have found out earlier. At time t equals to 0.5, the displacement is minus 1.25. Okay, so this is minus 2, this is minus 1.25. So the parabola will be something like this. This will be the parabola. Now from 0.5 to 1 second, this is a straight line. This is a straight line, 3t minus 2.75. So this is a straight line. So up to t equals to 1 second. So at t equals to 1 second, so the displacement is 0.25. So it should be 0.25 somewhere over here, which is positive. 0.25. This has to be a straight line like this. So it will be something like this. This is a straight line portion like this. After that, we have the displacement time curve is something like this, minus 2t square plus 70, minus 2t square plus 70 minus 4.75. So as you can see, this is a quadratic equation. This is the quadratic equation with the coefficient of t square is negative. So this is a downward parabola. So this is a downward parabola, and this is 2. This is a downward parabola. By substituting t equals to 2 over here, we will get 1.25. Displacement to be 1.25. So if this is 1.25, this is 1.25. Okay. So the vertex of the parabola can be found out again as we have discussed earlier by minus b by 2ic minus d by 4a. So from that we get the vertex to be at 1.75. So 1.75. The velocity is also 0 at this instant. So this is a downward parabola, something like this. This point is 1.25. So this is the displacement time curve. With this, I would like to end today's session. So we'll get back again with curvilinear motion in the next session. Thank you.